New developments in the Israel-Hamas war. Israel says it will temporarily open the Eretz border crossing near Gaza City to allow more aid to reach civilians in the Gaza Strip. It's unclear when that will happen. The decision comes after a tense phone call between President Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the wake of that Israeli airstrike that killed 7 aid workers with the World Central Kitchen. Joining us now is former Democratic Congresswoman and chair of the Commission on the National Defense Strategy, Jane Harman. Good to have you, Jane.
Thank you, Michael.
Hi, Congresswoman. Good to see you.
Hello. Hello, all.
So there were parents of some of the Israeli hostages in Gaza on Morning Joe earlier this week, and they were sort of saying that they felt like they and their families were forgotten sort of by these developments, and how President Biden has pushed Netanyahu to reopen, pathways for aid after this World Central Kitchen situation. To me, it suggests that Biden could have called Netanyahu up at any time during this war and said, hey, you need to do X, Y, and Z because of how he's now shifting. Do you see it that way?
Well, not quite, but you can keep two things in mind at the same time. One is humanitarian aid for starving people who have sadly been isolated by this very aggressive and I think not very effective Israeli strategy in Gaza. They're not achieving their objectives, in my view, although I support their objective to eliminate the Hamas governance. But there's that. But the hostages include 6 Americans, and 30 Americans were killed on October 7th, and I don't know why that's not a bigger part of the conversation. That is really traumatizing Israeli psyche, and I think it is way past time to focus on ending that piece of this. And I gather that Bill Burns is headed to Egypt to try to negotiate that. Sure, a sticking point is how many hostages or how many prisoners, let's go there, how many Palestinian prisoners have to be traded. But I think they can get over that. If these people stay in captivity a little longer, it's been 6 months, more and more of them are going to die. And this will be, sadly, a real policy failure.
So, Jane, you had some very interesting insights in the last few days, having just arrived back from Ukraine. We had Ambassador Bridget Brink, our U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, on Twitter, noting, great meeting today with a delegation from National Defense Strategy Commission led by Jane Harman. We discussed the importance of our continued support to Ukraine in its fight for freedom against Russia's illegal and brutal aggression. Update us on those conversations in your meetings with advisors to President Zelensky and the U.S. ambassador.
Well, we spent 2 days in Ukraine, got back late yesterday afternoon. Bridget Brink is terrific and has been there for some time, has an excellent team, and is very courageously trying to fight for what we need, which is this $60 billion in U.S. aid. Congress is coming back this week. The Senate's already acted. And kudos to Mitch McConnell, Susan Collins, and others for producing a huge victory in the Senate. But in the House, we'll have to see. 8 months delay is way too much. And what's happening there is, sadly, Zelensky and his people are, as he said, cutting the line. They're trying to fight the Russians across a long border with Russia, but without ammo and without what's called long-range fires, missiles to hit back at the installations that are hitting them, and without really good anti-jamming equipment for the drones that they have in great numbers. They have to make decisions that, we can't be here, we can only be there. By the way, one of the things we saw, Michael, that was amazing was their own aerospace industry. They are building low-cost drones for $350 a copy. They are building long-range drones for about $5,000 a copy, and they are making their own tanks. This is an astounding thing. They've changed their technology base to focus on this, and they're showing us how to do it. But without the long-range fire and without the other U.S. aid, Patriot missiles, they still can't win.
You know, it is a number of these missiles that the Congresswoman is talking about. I mean, they're made here in America. The money that Congress would pass is money to go to the Pentagon so they can buy from American companies in places like Kentucky and Arizona and all over America. Talk about made in America first.
70% of that budget goes to U.S. companies to backstop the weapons that are needed. And I can't imagine why it is in our interest not to send this aid yesterday, given the fact that if Ukraine loses or if Ukraine is depleted, Russia's going to move on into NATO and we're going to be involved in a land war. Seems to me this is a much cheaper, more effective way to handle this.
I mean, we mentioned this. I mean, it's worth reading from Senator Schumer's Dear Colleague letter that he did send out to senators, really kind of talking about the agenda and talking about the calendar ahead. And he notes in this letter, we continue to keep pressure on the House to act on the Senate-passed National Security Supplemental. And later he says, I've spoken with Speaker Johnson, and I believe that he understands the threat of further delaying the National Security Supplemental. Yeah. But he has to ultimately decide for himself whether or not he will do the right thing for Ukraine.
Well, Johnson's caught between a rock and a hard place in the
Is
reading.
he?
Yeah, a little bit, because the reading that I've picked up, Jane, here in Washington, is that he is now in a much more inclined to want to do the right thing.
That's what I hear.
On Ukraine, but you still have the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world who are stopping that. Does there come a point where this aid, as it's currently constituted, becomes not enough? Because we've now gone beyond that period where this aid could have been put to use, and now because of the things you've described, that aid is going to be needed more, but more of it.
Well, I think $60 billion isn't chump change, and I think it will go a long way. A lot of it being left in America to backstop our aerospace base. But I think it's needed right now, and we can focus on that later. The problem is that Kevin McCarthy changed the House rules, and sadly, the Speaker has almost no power. If I were the Speaker now, I would say I'm going to do the right thing. And there will be a discharge petition, so that means Democrats can also vote for this. And if someone moves to take me out, maybe Democratic votes will save me, or maybe they won't. But at least my epitaph will be, I did the right thing. And America's future is on the line here. There are a lot of important issues, but we got to get Ukraine right, and we've got to help Israel get it right. A lot of mistakes are being made, and it is really time to figure out a way to get those hostages back, to figure out a way to stop the aerial bombing of Gaza and get humanitarian aid in, and to move toward a solution, long-range solution, that's in Israel's security interest, which is two states for two people.
You know, to the Marjorie Taylor Greens out there who asked the question, what is the benefit of aiding Ukraine? It means that in 5 or 6 years, we don't have to send our young men and women to Europe to fight a war.
Maybe not 5 or 6 years, Michael.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 or 6 months. I mean, if this thing goes really south. But kudos to the Ukrainians for fighting as hard as they are and for trying to step up to provide the weapons they can, which are making some difference. But our U.S. aid is absolutely crucial. This is the week that the House should be acting.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.